to anything having to do with these issues in some iterations of the Gemara. So we saw that already. I'm starting with that long-winded introduction because I don't want to cover ground yet. How could Chazal today? You're going to read things today and go, well, they're whitewashing us as if. And I tried to explain in over 3 sessions that on the technical grounds, there will be a pretty good case that could be made to justify how technically David did not actually, really, literally violate 2 out of the big 3 of the Yarig Val Yavor sins, right? To die before transgressing. Technically. But that the whole point of what we have in the Navi and even in Chazal is to say that's technically. But there's a bigger picture. So I'm just going to remind you about 3 things in the bigger picture. Number 1, just on the level of Pshat, the fact that all the other chapters from now that we'll see after the break, chapter 13 through whatever it is 20, is all going to be about the suffering of David HaMelech, the playing out of exactly what the Navi told him. Chatati la Hashem is what he says, and the Navi says, you're not going to die. But there'll be a sword in your house, and terrible things will happen. A lot of other people will die nonetheless. Bad things. Yeah? So he that's exactly what played out. Aleph. Bet is that story, that's what we analyzed last time and 2 times ago, the Kivsat Harash story, the story of the little lamb, the poor man with the lamb, is not really a one-to-one representation of what really transpired when you try to line up the variables. Like, is that lamb supposed to be Bathsheba? Well, does that erase her involvement in this? She's a lamb, she's a lemachel, they drew her along. Uriah is supposed to be the poor man. Like, what the Navi should have come in to do is to come in guns blazing and say, sire, it's the charges are adultery and conspiracy to commit murder, and in fact murder. What do you think? He didn't do that. And I tried to draw that out as we learn to show that on the merits of the actual case, a man has stolen a sheep from someone else. Here's what you have to do, to pay back 4 times. And a court could have dispensed that. Why did the Navi come to the king with a story, with a mashal? Because he said to him, sire, there's an extrajudicial component here that needs to be addressed, because technically we know what the recipe is. But in a broader sense, what do you think? He should be put to death. He doesn't deserve to be alive. Really, sire? Well, you're the man. Me? Yeah. Right? So that's right? It actually says ata ha'ish. So that's the shock, right? And that's how the entree comes into, well, technically, and today we're going to talk about the technically. Today's the technically, what does it mean? Well, David didn't really exactly do this. Well, he did exactly do this, but technically he didn't actually violate adultery and murder, technically. But I bring that long-winded introduction because I don't want to go over grounds. How could they say this? That's what Chazal are doing, but they're not blinded or trying to whitewash what's in the Tanakh. That's actually what's there. And in Chazal, I showed you a bunch of sources already that point very explicitly to the notion that David HaMelech considered himself a person who had sinned, and that Chazal felt that way as well. And that and we'll see some sources now today about that. Okay, I'm done. We're going to start learning in a minute. But now some questions first.
One question that I have, this is Peshat. On verse 8, at least in the translation, it says that I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives unto thy bosom. He didn't take over Shaul's wives, did he?
Well, generally, the one who is the victor usually did take the house of the wives. It's a good question, though. I don't remember offhand.
I mean, that seems against Jewish values to do that. Later on, Avshalom, when he's going to...
Right. Well, that was a signal that you're now the king. I don't recall. I don't know. It's a good question.
Is it considered something good because once you've...
It's a sign of holding the seat of power. Now, on the moral side of it, I don't know. I'm so wrapped up in the story with David and Uriah and Bathsheba and Natan Hanavi coming now in chapter 12. I actually didn't pay much attention to that pasuk. I should have.
Which pasuk?
Pasuk Chet, page 378, verse 8. 12, page 378. Shmuel Bet, Perak Yud Bet. Again, so all the background is we learned through Yud Aleph and Yud Bet the Pshat. We learned through Yud Aleph and Yud Bet, trying to understand on a deeper level the broader context of how things played out. We learned inside the Ma'amarei Chazal that describe that David HaMelech himself is saying, I'm a sinner, to say nothing of the words, Chatati LaHashem. We learned in Sefer Tehillim, chapter 51, remember? And we had that idea that I was somehow conceived in sin. There's some idea like that in my mother's womb already. And we ended last time with the reference to all the parallels between this section in chapter 38 in Breshit with Yehuda and Tamar, remember? And we'll come back to that also. And there also, of course, that on the technical side, there might have been a way to justify, but in reality, it was what he did when he said Tzad Kami Meni. When Yehuda said that, he was signaling that he was in the wrong and she was in the right. Join with me here, this Gemara here, Daf. It's a page that says Shmuel Bet Ch Yud Aleph, part 2. It's a part 2 packet, but we're up to part 4. We've already seen the second page of this with the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Remember that we saw that already. Second and third page.
The ones with English.
Right, about that. Pardon?
The ones with the English.
Well, yeah. Well, there's English on this Gemara also. It's the top of page 2. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani said in Rabbi Yonatan's name. See top of page 2?
Okay.
So Amar Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. I'm reading the Gemara in the Hebrew. I'm doing my own loose translation. Check my math by looking at the Cincino translation next page, yeah? This is the headquarters sugya, but I don't want to keep saying it. Hopefully you got the point, okay? Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Yonatan. Kol ha'omer David chata eno ela to'eh. Someone who says that David sinned is making a mistake. Shenamar, as it says, Vayihi David l'chol drachav maskil v'Hashem imo. David was very, you could use the word thoughtful and deliberate in all of that which he did, and God was with him. This is already the psak of the Tanakh about David, already in Shmuel Aleph when we're introduced to him. V'gomer, etc. Efshar chet ba liyado u'shchina imo. Could he have committed a sin and the divine presence was with him? Now, we'll stop right here. And the easy answer is, well, that was before. And nobody's infallible. Noach was an ish tzaddik at the beginning of his life. By the end of his life, he's an ish adamah. And so the people who make the point that he was righteous at the beginning and maybe less righteous at the end. I mean, it's not a blank check. It's not infallibility per se, right? It's because we learned that. But I'm sure Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani was aware of this as well. But the point is, he's to say, the psak on the whole, is that when the book gets written up about David, it makes that blanket statement about him early on, and it never makes a statement saying God is no longer with David. Au contraire, we read in chapter 7 that Natan Hanavi brings him the news. That's bad news, good news. You're not going to build the Mikdash, but your son will. And oh, by the way, the Malchut Beit David will always be chosen by Hashem, right? And by the way, remember when I was talking then about what's the danger of a blank check? You can do no wrong in my eyes. Whatever you do is always good. It's all good. That's what Natan told David.
But it's all
Then.
predicated on the fact
And he made a
that you
mistake.
have to
It wasn't
do
right.
What God tells you to do, or there will be consequences.
Yeah, that's true, and that's going to be true here. But if you look back in chapter 7, I don't remember it being conditional when Hashem tells Natan to tell David, I'll always have Malchut Beit David.
Unlike Shaul.
Unlike Shaul, and even unlike Shlomo, where you're going to see that Hashem's going to tell him later on, well, you have to behave, you have to do what you have to do. But with David, with the promise of Malchut Beit David, that never happens. And what is the net impact on a person who gets a blanket endorsement? Oh, you never make mistakes. Well, it's only a matter of time now. The clock is ticking now. So we have here, back in the Gemara, Elamani Mekayim, Madua Bazita Edvar Hashem Lasot Hara. Why did you, Bazita means that you denigrated the word of God to do bad, Lasot Hara. That's a direct quote from Natan HaNavi to David. So that sentence by Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani is parsed. Shebikesh lasot ra, lasot v'lo asa. He wanted to do that which was not good, it's that which is evil, but he didn't do anything evil. Now, last week we saw very clearly that at the very top of page 378, right here in the Tanakh, what does it say? Vayira davar asher sa David be'enei Hashem. Right? What David did was wicked in the eyes of Hashem. But Rav Shmuel Bet Ch is saying, yeah, but when Natan communicated that to David, he didn't say you did wickedness. He said you wanted to do wickedness. Right? So that again, that's the technical description of what's being described. Pardon?
We look at that text again.
Which one? Page 378. Top of the page, first line on page 378 is the last pasuk in Perek Yud Aleph.
Okay.
They have a son, Vayira davar asher asa David be'enei Hashem. Who paskin? The pshat of the Navi paskin. But then, if you keep going, look at verse 9 on the same page. Natan says to David, Madua bazita et dvar Hashem la'asot hara be'enai. La'asot hara, but not actually doing ra. You wanted to do the wrong thing, but you didn't do the wrong thing. Now, let's keep going into Gemara. You with me, Larry? Okay, let's keep going now.
Yeah.
Amar Rav, pardon?
You're right, you're absolutely right. The language is troublesome.
Yeah. The point is, Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani is, you could say, cherry picking various psukim and leaving others out. But to me, it's that he too grapples with the reality that it's not just that earlier on, when we first introduced to David, it says, and Hashem is always with David. But it's that to the end of Jewish history, Hashem is always with the house of David. We can't leave it like that.
Just looking at the language, and that's why I wanted to look at literally the word. You could I think a way to read this is he's saying you did do it, but what he's doing is explaining what bazita means.
Okay. That's you're looking in the level of pshat. I'm telling you, Shmuel Bar Nachmani read the fact that it said not that asita ra, but la'asot hara means that you intended to do wickedness,
Okay.
meaning in an exculpatory manner. You intended, but you didn't actually.
But the text, we've got a dead Uriah, we've got the text saying
About
that
Bathsheba,
she's
yeah.
that Bathsheba is Eshet Uriah.
Right.
And when they say she mourns him, she's, a couple of times they
Right.
say Eshet Uriah.
Right.
How does he deal with that?
He doesn't have to answer all the questions. He's starting off with the jumping off point that anyone who just claims that David is a sinner. I always understood this statement by Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani, and I hope I'm not imposing too much of my own bias into it. It's anybody who tells the whole story as David sinned. That's a mistake, because you've frozen him in time, right? That becomes the signature portrait of David. He's a sinner. That's like the one thing. That frame is part of the bigger story, part of the bigger picture, but it is not the totality of the story. And one of the ways he's doing this, now if you keep going, the next line of the Gemara is Amar Rav, who was a student of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Amar Rav, Rabbi da'ati mi David, mahapech v'darish b'schute de David. Rabbi was descended, according to our tradition, of David. So he was looking around to find merit about David. He did begin with the end in mind. Did he stack the deck? Well, yeah, he did. Again, because the equation's main variable of Jewish history, it must of necessity include David HaMelech. How come? Because that's our Emunah. I know you're going to say, well, that's circular, and if we don't like that, we should say, but there's too much ink has been spilled and too many hearts have been connected to this persona to simply decide that we're going to say, David Chata, period. Okay, close the book, let's move on. We'll write a nasty song about him or something. We can't do that. And so Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was looking around for the zchuyot. So here we go. Madua bazita et dvar Hashem la'asot hara. Rabbi Omer, mishune ra'a zu mikol ra'ot shebetorah. Right? So what is this evil that's being referenced here? K'tiv behu vayas v'kan k'tiv la'asot. In other contexts, it says that the person did that which was wicked. But here, it's not that he did it, but rather kan k'tiv la'asot. Shebikesh la'asot v'lo asa. This is exactly the same thing that Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani said. And for another time, why now Rav is quoting that actually Rebbe was doing this. If we have the testimony from Rebbe, would have been Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani, but not for now. Let's just say that Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani is contrasting it within different psukim about David. Whereas Rebbe is saying, look at whenever it says that someone did wickedness, it's vayas hara. If you want the example of that, that was in chapter 38, where it said about Er and Onan not wanting to impregnate Tamar because they're worried about whatever they're worried about. So the verses actually use the expression vayas hara. All right, so that's in chapter 38. You can find it if you're interested to see it on page 45 in the Tanakh. It says directly that. Where is this here? No, I made a big mistake, apparently. Vayhi er b'chor Yehuda rabbi inei Hashem yimtei Hashem. Vayira be'enei Hashem asher saviyamad gam oto. So Taka, where's the Vayas? Where is that Vayas? Wait, I made a mistake. I thought the Vayas was there. Vayas hara. Okay. I don't know where the vayas is really referenced to. I really thought it was here. Sloppy on my part that I didn't look it up. I don't know why I thought there was a vayas in the actions.
The shichat ha'arsa, that's it.
No. But his point was the language of vayas versus la'asot. La'asot is you're going to do it. Vayas is you did it.
I think there are other times in the Torah that they use vayas or ras, not the first time.
But he doesn't give the examples here, which is leaving me in a lurch because I'm trying to figure out. So where was that? It's written, and he did. For every other, the other ra'ah is vayas. Okay, I have to do my homework better.
La'asot as an infinitive rather than the future.
Like that he was usually want to do. Asher bara Elokim la'asot. Yeah. Yeah, that is. The infinitive here, though, is the conjugation of an intention, not something that is ongoing. That's the point of what they're trying to argue, is that he didn't actually, he just danced very close to the edge.
There's also the very strict legal halacha that it wasn't direct causation, it was indirect. Okay, the other thing I'm curious, how do you translate mehapech? You heard that to reverse it?
No. Like hafoch ba vafoch ba dekula ba. Turn it over means he's searching.
Oh, to examine.
Yeah, in the sense of, well, I don't know what Cincino do. I didn't even look. He expounds, yeah, okay. He doesn't really, just expound. It does expound, but it's not really expounds. That'd be the dorish. That's vidarish. Mahapech is that he's going over and over to find something, right? Flipping the pages in the Tanakh. Right? So it's Bikesh Lasav Lo Asa. Now, at Uriah Hachiti, Hikita Becherev, Shayalacha Ladona B'Sanhedrin V'Lo Danta. When he told him that you hit or struck Uriah with a sword, it should have, that was extrajudicial, but really it should have been in a court. Now, what should he have judged him about? We'll see momentarily, but yeah,
Rebel against
yeah,
the crown?
yeah, for rebellious behavior.
Mored
Mored b'malchut, correct. That's what Rashi points it out right here. Rashi just says you're going to learn about al shemared b'malchut kittul kaman, and the fact that he rebelled against the king, as we will learn later, further along. But you should have done that. In other words, my claim, according to Rebbe, Uriah Hachiti is dead because of David, which would have been fine had he taken him to the Sanhedrin, but he didn't. Instead, he handled it extrajudicially in his wearing his crown and using his royal prerogative, Flodanta, right? Ve'et ishto lakachta lecha leisha, likuchim yesh lecha ba. The fact that it says that ishto lakachta lecha leisha means his wife you took for you as a wife. The language that Natan used is to show that you do have some kind of right to claim that you are betrothed to her. Rashi writes, "Kiddushin tovsin ba she'ena eshet ish." It's actually not an eshet ish. What's the not the eshet ish? Now the next line. Damar of Shmuel bar Nachmeni Amar b'Yonatan kol hayotz l'milchemet Beit David kotev get kritut liishto. This is actually a good crass because of what we talked about last night in the Gemara here. A man who went out to a war for the house of David, he wrote a get, a kritut. He wrote a writ of divorce for his wife, If you look at Rashi, Rashi's on the right-hand side, and the superscript gets kritut al tnai. It's on condition. She'im yamut, if he dies in battle, tehem migurashin ma'achshav. She should be divorced immediately. Upa'amim shehu tard b'tzeito v'sholcho min ha'milchama. So sometimes he's all, so to speak, for tumult on his way out, and he sends the get kritut. He'll send it retroactively with someone, not retroactively, send it once he left to the battlefield. He'll send someone with it in hand. Bring this to my wife. It's a conditional get. They used to write conditional get to go out to war in case they would not come back. So if he dies, you're migurashet from now. By the by, it's migurashet from now. So in other words, that's the argument, right? And Shenamar, here's the pasuk.
He wasn't dead, but he wasn't dead.
I know.
So does that make a difference?
Of course, it makes a difference.
Okay, so you're saying from now means the death.
Well, hold on. From now means the moment that he gave it to her.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the get will take effect retroactively if I die, as if I was divorced from you from now when I gave it to you. And where's the hint that they used to do this? Tikach, my arubatam. That means it should be like a surety of some sort, a surety, right? Like in our parsha, Yehuda says to Yaakov, "Anochi ervenu miyadi tavakshanu." I will be the surety, the bondsman for Binyamin. You will ask him from my hands. That's what an arev is. So arev kablon. This is an arev. My arubatam. Tani Rabbi Yosef. Dvam muravim beino lefeina. The things that are intertwined between him and her, which is a reference to, a hint to, some kind of a get. Rashi here writes, that was back when Shaul was still alive. You see, they were even doing it then. Hainu kiddushin. Tikach, all right, the word tikach, to take something, that's kiddushin. Tibatel al yedei get, that kiddushin will be removed. If getting married is ki kach ish isha, the Torah's formulation is the taking. That word means they're getting married. So too, vet arubatam tikach means you will be removing that which is the surety between them, i.e., you'll be giving a conditional get. Tani Rabbi Yosef, dvar rav min alavena. Okay, v'oto rakta b'cherav b'nei Ammon, and you killed him with the sword of the b'nei Ammon, which, by the way, on its merits, causing someone else's death is certainly chayav b'dei shemayim, but it's not actionable in an earthly court as it is. But anyway, macher b'nei Ammon iatanen ashalav. There you have it. Af Uriah Hachiti iatanen ashalav. Also, the regard to Uriah Hachiti, because you didn't actually kill him, you sent him to the battlefield. So you're not going to be held accountable for that. In the end, again, everybody who's learning this, they didn't close their eyes and blindfold themselves. They didn't read the pshat. It says in the pshat, Chatatu Lashem. It says Madua Bazita. It says afterward that Natan told him, and the sword will not go out of your household, and terrible things will happen. And they did. So, but just on the technical, my timer. Oh, sorry, fine. My timer. What's the reason why he had to be put to death? Morid b'malchut hava. Da'amar le va'adoni yoav avdei adoni al pnei sedech chonim. Right. So what is it? What's his rebellion? The way he spoke to the king. He told the king, my master Yoav. And as the point was made, and Aaron's not here today, but he was trying to make the point strenuously, it's maybe a manner of speaking, and it's not really, he didn't mean anything by it. Good point on the level of pshat. As far as this Gemara is concerned, no, he did mean it that way. He meant to say, I don't really work for you, and I'm not going to hearken to whatever it is that you are telling me to do. And he didn't go home. What's the Morid b'malchut? It's not really that line only, is he didn't go home. Now, what's amazing is, had he gone home, then he would have signaled that this is still his house, would have signaled that whatever get he gave to his wife, the conditional get, that if he dies, will mean that she was really divorced from the time that he sent her the get. It would be basically rescinded if at the moment that he came home, presumably he lives with her again, so, maybe the get takes effect again when he goes back out there, I don't know. But he doesn't go home, he refuses to go. And the king wants him to go home for very obvious reasons that we talked about before. Wants to cover his tracks, to cover up.
That makes no sense.
Didn't work.
David is this great Torah scholar.
He is.
Okay, fine, then he knows that there's a conditional.
Get.
A conditional get, and that he can take this woman. Or does
Well, he can only really take this woman if her husband's dead. But he's not dead yet. He showed up. Remember? He was called back, in fact, by David. See, if David would have just sent to Yoav, there's a guy out in the field. He's one of your prized soldiers, Uriah. Rub him out. Put him in the front line. Retreat. Then the Uriah would never come home. But that's not what happened. Now you'll ask me, well, why? I don't know. It's counterfactual. David didn't say that. David just brought him home. And he told him to go to his house. It would be a good way to explain how come this woman is having a baby a very short time after, right? If the husband's been away on in the battlefield for how long? About a year. It said L'Tshuvat Shana. So that's a question. It's just a question. All these things are questions. Here's some sheets. This is part 3 now. Part 3.
I got to ask you one question.
I'm here. I'm listening.
Back to
Part 3.
when
That's
he
part 3.
says, who is this woman? And he's getting a genealogy lesson.
Right.
About
her.
in that time,
Yeah.
are they saying that this is the present and true wife of Uri?
Sure they are. Yeah.
That rundown?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But that's what they're saying. But the point, I mean, there, it mentions, it actually says, Eshet Uriah Hachiti in verse 3, chapter 11, verse 3, Eshet Uriah Hachiti.
So isn't that enough to say, don't go there? I mean,
This wasn't about David forgetting something. He didn't forget. Keys, wallet, don't commit a crime like this. He didn't just thinking that way. There's nothing to do with that. The point is, it happened. He did it, right? No, really. I mean, it's not like then. She's married. That was not even a. That apparently didn't stop him. Talk about the royal overreach, yeah.
when
I mean,
Helen and I learned this in Yaffa Lieberman's class
Okay.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
She said not only was there commentators who said there was a conditional divorce.
Right.
She said there were commentators who said all soldiers actually divorced their wives. Now, is that?
Maybe there are such commentators. I chose not to focus on them because I was going with the Gemara Masachet Shabbat that claims actually there was a conditional get.
Okay, because
If it was an actual get,
then you got more problems, because then he could have married her without waiting for
Yeah.
Uriah to die.
Right.
And then trying to pawn the kid off
Right.
is really bad.
right. Let's focus on this for a few more minutes about the rebellion part. Look at page 1 of part 3 now. The fall, Shmuel Bet, Parak 11, part 3. Umasha Amru Zichronom Libracha is the Sefer HaChinuch, mitzvah 497. What's the mitzvah? Umasha Amru Zichronom Libracha, Som Tasim Alecha Melech, place upon you a king. Shetehei Emato Alecha, his awe, his fear should be upon you. Klomar, Shenira Otov Na'amin Lidvarav V'chol Davar Shlo Yitzaveh Kineged HaTorah. We have to accept everything that he says, as long as he doesn't command us to do something against the Torah. Unechabdeu b'tachlit hakavod haroi l'basar v'dam. And we have to honor him to the fullest extent with the honor that is owed to a human being. V'chol mi sheyavor mitzvat melech shehukam al pi haTorah o mored b'shum inyan hareshut b'yad melech lahorgo v'ein alav tzad avon b'kach. Anyone who transgresses, countermands any of the commandments given by the king that was set by the Torah, and there is no king who was set by the Torah like David HaMelech. Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of the Navi, etc. So, or if the person rebels, even in something that's volitional, but that it's in the hand of the king, that it's in the hand of the king to have him killed, extrajudicially, completely. And there's no sin for him to do this. She'Uriah nidchayev b'nafsho she'amar b'fnei David v'adoni Yoav. Again, our ear is not attuned to that in the same way, but the Chazal are saying, no, you don't talk to the king. In the presence of the king, you watch every single word that comes out of your mouth, and he spoke that way. I'm just saying, it's not in the Gemara that way, that part of the issue is not just that, had he just said that and gone home and Shalom al Yisrael, and been with his wife, so okay, but then he stayed in the workers' quarters. He stayed in the court. He stayed in not in the court, but in the vicinity of the court of the king.
Is he a Jew? Because it says Uriah the Hittite. There were mercenaries around.
Right.
So then if he if he's not an actual convert or isn't an actual Jew, how can he be bound by this Torah law? He's only bound by the B'nai Noah.
I know.
And then therefore.
I'm not going to go down that road because there is a discussion to be had that we talked about it previously. Either he's a convert to Judaism, in which case he has exactly the same law as everybody else, or he's descendant of converts, and that's why he's called that, and that's that.
So he's not a mercenary.
But the idea that he's a mercenary, I don't recall seeing, it doesn't mean it's not there, I just don't remember seeing in Chazal, which I consider in this regard authoritative, anybody who claims, well, he wasn't really Jewish anyway, so it was okay. If it was okay, then why does he keep saying Eshet or Achiti? And let's say he wasn't Jewish, so then everything's fine, everything's good. I mean, the issue of fidelity in this regard is one of the servants of Bnei Noach. So it's not like...
Whether Uriah was a Jew or not, he was living under the jurisdiction and hegemony of David.
Right, Shelley, I think, was making the point about the sinfulness of David being with Bathsheba. If she's Jewish and he's really not Jewish, he's a mercenary. So is that a factor? Was that what you were saying, or did I?
No.
Oh.
I was the business of him being a rebel against the king.
Oh.
If he's a mercenary.
That's what Larry said then.
Okay.
That's what Larry said, for sure.
The other thing is, does the Sefer HaChinuch really stand for the proposition that any behavior contrary to the king, someone spits on the sidewalk, that's a capital crime?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes. This is exactly what Shmuel is trying to tell the people when they say, we just want to be like everybody else, can we just have a king, please? And he's saying, no, you don't really want that. So yes, we do. We just want to be like everybody else. And, well, he's going to come into your field. He's going to take your sons and your daughters off to war. He's going to do whatever he wants. It's eminent domain. And yeah, that's actually how it works. Which is, by the by, why later on, when various people, Shimon ben Gera, etc., you're going to be cursing David HaMelech, and in Yoav again, the hot-blooded lieutenant, really chief of staff, is saying, let's just kill him. No, we're not going to touch him. Why not? We'll get there when we get there. But that's going to make these actions later on actually much more heroic than would otherwise be the case. In fact, the king could have just said, look, if on the level of Pshat it was really so rebellious and so disrespectful, there are other people standing in the room. All the king has to say is, that guy just stepped out of line. You come over here, kill him. Done. He didn't do that. Instead, he found this surreptitious manner to the back to the battlefield to put him in it. Well, why would he do that? So maybe he wasn't actually really being rebellious per se. But the point here is there is another layer of, and we don't know how much Uriah did or didn't know, but there's almost like a layer of, I'm not going to go home and give him the satisfaction that now he covered up what he did. Maybe he was wise to have surmised that also. Rav Meidan makes that point. The guy's sleeping over Davka in the court with who exactly? With the kitchen staff, with the ministers, where is he staying in the airport hotel? He doesn't want to go home. Why not? Does he know something and he's like sticking it back to the king? Maybe.
Now,
The
with this
rebelliousness,
go ahead.
the rebelliousness, though, you have the famous case of Yonatan and Shaul, where the people just said, no, you can't do it, and that's the end of the matter, and Shaul gives in as far as...
With killing Yonatan.
Yonatan.
It was his own son.
I'm sure he wasn't upset by the...
Right. Right.
The point is, the idea that the people simply object, that would be considered unacceptable, unsurmountable, so no, not at all. It seems that although it's not uncommon to have, I think, laws and customs that don't go along with each other. But what's done in practice and what's written as a law is often not the same.
Yeah, okay.
Same.
Fair enough.
There have to be limits to this, because otherwise when all these wicked kings we see in Malachim who bring in idol worship and everything like that, maybe that's why the people didn't want to say anything. They were afraid of off with your head judicially, and then they shouldn't have been responsible for the sin, but
Right.
somehow they are.
So look to me the Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin Memtet. K'tiv kol ish asher yamr et pichel v'lishma et varech el chol asher titzavenu yumat. Yeshua Aleph. Here's a Din Melech. Hashem tells him this. Tells Yeshua this. Yachol afilu divrei Torah. Maybe even when it comes to Torah matters. Tamud lomar rak chazak ve'ematz. Rak chazak ve'ematz. Rak means something that is delimiting. The words ach and rak come to show a limit of something. The way this is understood, and look at the Rambam, next source. Hamavatel gzerat hamelach b'shvil shenitasek b'mitzvot. If someone defies the decree of the king because they're engaged in doing mitzvahs. Afilu mitzvah kala, even if it's as easy, meaning a light mitzvah. Hareza patur. That's not a bittul of the gzeir of the melech. It's actionable. Divrei harav, divrei ha'eved, divrei harav kodmin. The words of the master and the words of the slave. Who's the slave here? The king, right? So we have to listen to the master. And it goes without saying that if the king decreed to do something that would be nullifying a mitzvah, then we don't have to listen to the king. So that is in fact a limit. But this was not this was not in that category. David told him, go home to your family, go home to your wife. He didn't go. So there's some element there of an issue. Turn with me back to packet number 2 to look with me at Tosfot here on this page. You gave it in already? Sorry. Do you have an extra? No, this one. Sorry. I forgot to mention we're going back and forth because I had to see the Gemaras before I could go back to the, okay? Okay. Now, I'm going to dial back on one thing that we talked about before because I kind of poo-pooed it because it's actually not in Chazal, which I want to go back to now because it has to do with, and I had to introduce this part here, where David doesn't want to just take off Uriah's head, whether it's because of the reason that you mentioned. There's a difference between, that's on the books, but they're not really going to do that. Or because he's trying to make some kind of cover-up happen. And he needs to make it seem like, well, everything's fine. He just got killed in battle. What can we do? While Chazal do not themselves claim that there was a complete divorce, there might have been a possibility, according to some, we're going to see not a small person, that perhaps there was, in the case of Uriah, some kind of surreptitious divorce that transpired that for reasons of keeping up appearances was not meant to be known to other people. Again, we'll follow this under the category of the technical. It's not to exculpate, be exonerating David from culpability entirely. This is some of the technical. So look with me, Rashi here. There's a Rashi, the Tosfot, excuse me. I'm sorry. Before I get to the get one. Sorry, that's why I picked up this Gemara first. I lost my train of thought. With the Gemara, the piece that we just saw now about the absolute power of the king. So remember, according to the Gemara in Shabbos, the critique was you didn't bring him to the Sanhedrin. So look with me, Tosfot, top left-hand corner. Shahayla chaladuna v'Sanhedrin, kashi lari. De beperakama de Megillah amrinan gabe naval de mord b'malchut lobai limidaine. So in the case of Naval, remember Naval?
Yeah, with Eliyahu. He doesn't.
Not Eliyahu. The Naval with David.
Naval with
Abigail, yeah.
I'm thinking of the
No. It's not a Carmelite. We're talking about the one with he was a Morid b'Malchut. Remember, his people say we're not going to give this fugitive anything, and Naval is chortling away in his drunken stupor, and his wife's telling him, right? In the end, he dies, right? But the truth is, the Gemara says he didn't have to be brought before a court. He died anyway, but he didn't have to be brought before a court. His Morid b'Malchut. Ve'Uriah Morid b'Malchut hava kedamar b'Samuch, and yet Uriah, the Gemara is here, is also saying that Uriah is a Morid b'Malchut. So, i.e., in the case of Naval, he didn't have to go to court, but in here, he did have to go to court, and David's being held to account for not taking him to court. V'yesh lomer devadai tzarech laduno v'leida im humor b'malchut aval le'ayin b'dino v'la'asot halana din v'lahamtin ad lemachar ein tzarech. What is meant here is that Uriah, of course, in a case where someone is a morid b'malchut generally, you do have to judge it and to know if that person really is a morid b'malchut and to bring that to the Sanhedrin. However, the idea that you have to go to the nth degree of the standards that would normally be brought against a person who's being held in the dock for a capital crime, that you don't have to do. You don't have to wait till the next day. You don't have to leave it overnight. Everyone has to sleep on it and have to ratify the decision the next day before the point of death. You don't have to do any of that. The Gemara Sanhedrin, Amar shedan David at Naval b'Sanhedrin mi vayacharu ish charbo. So the truth is, if you look in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, it claims there that David did judge Naval in some kind of Sanhedrin, but they didn't have to wait, and follow the same procedures. The point is, that Tosfot just says, well, actually, really, everybody does have to be judged in the Sanhedrin. This point is well taken. It's just that the king has more latitude to put someone to death, and he didn't do any of that. He just had him killed right away by sending him out to the battlefield, have him killed extrajudicially, completely.
So
Now-
I just want to say one thing about divorce. It says, you are free, mutar l'kol ish. I'm divorced, and that's what they tell you right away.
Yeah.
There's no a conditional thing is very dangerous. So you have to say right away, you are
Yeah.
free for somebody else.
So this is a much longer sugya than we have time for today. You're right. If there's an absolute Tanai that's put there, but we learned the Gemara's last night. We were learning the Gemara Sukkah, that it's possible to have a Tanai that has a time limit on it. You're divorced as long as for the next 30 days you don't go to your father's house. So that would be a good get, because in 30 days it's going to take effect. This one is a Tanai, is if I die, then retroactively, it's as if we were divorced initially. Look with me at this Tosfot here, get kritut. Here. Get kritut. Kotev li'ishto. So Tosfot writes, Perish Rashi al Tanai. Rashi writes that it was conditional. If he dies in battle, she's divorced from now, from the time of giving it. Get. Right? This is what we were talking about before. But this was my source, but I hid one piece from you I was going to share with you right now. I'll come into it in a minute. Right? If it's al Tanai, the Tanai must be that I don't come back at the end of the war. It's not whenever I come home. Why? Because he was home. He was in town. Everyone saw him. Right? Ach kasha. To Tanai b'misha achzo, we learn elsewhere in Masachet Gittin, Mahi ba'otan yamim, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, harehi ke'eshet ish l'chol dvarah. The Gemara says that she's an eshet ish that whole time until such time as the husband's actually dead. She is still married. Don't think that because that it can work out of sequence, because then, right, it can't work out of sequence that he's still alive, but if he ends up dying, so retroactively it's like she was divorced from him from then, i.e. that means a priori it's like she's divorced now as long as he gets killed in the battlefield, right? In Cain, if so, at least according to Rabbi Yehuda, Haita Eshet Ish Gemura, then she definitely was an Eshet Ish, according to Rabbi Yehuda at least, right? And this is only for Larry, not for anyone else. This is the same, because we're learning this in Gemara, it's the same Rabbi Yehuda who holds there's no such thing as Breira. Remember? Breira is a whole mechanism we were learning last night in the Talmudic context about how the end of some process clarifies something about the initial element of a process. And Rabbi Yehuda basically maintains there's no such thing as Breira. Good application? So this is here. Don't think that, well, he died in the end, so she was really divorced from the beginning. No. Died at the end, but it means that they're still married the whole time. According to according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Venira Rabbeinu Tam, this is what I said I'm not aware in Mefarshim. But this isn't a parshan of the Mikra, this is a jurist. This is a halachist. Rabbeinu Tam, grandson of Rashi.
One other thing.
Please.
In regard to a sota, does the man who thinks his wife unfaithful allowed to go back to sleep with her?
Yes. After the sota ceremony, if she's innocent, yes. And to have a bracha, to have children, etc. Yeah.
But in the process, when they're
No, not during the process. But they're still married to each other.
But he's not allowed to touch her
I
in
believe
that
not.
process time.
I think not, no.
So doesn't that bear some?
This is not related. What does that have to do with sota, though? The sota ceremony didn't happen here.
Well, she is in a questionable status as she slept with David.
Yeah.
And the fact that he didn't want to go back, if he possibly had some.
Oh, he possibly had some thoughts that maybe she did the wrong thing and he doesn't want to go near her. Yeah, that could be. Is that because of sota? Yeah, he's suspecting that she's an eshet ish. That could be the issue. Now look over here. V'neila Rabbeinu Tam thinks shahaya megarsha legamre belosum t'nai. That really the two of them were actually divorced with no conditions. V'hada amrinan behazav, and this is what it means when it's said in Hazav in Perak Hazav in Bava Metzia, mutav shival adam safek eshet ish val yalbim pnei chaveru barabim minalan midavid karila safek eshet ish lefi shahayu megarshim betzina va'olam svurim shehi eshet ish. You could say this is forced as much as you want, but I'm just telling you what he says. Rabbeinu Tam's what?
Sina?
Hidden. Sniut. Hidden in a secret way. He divorced his wife, but they didn't want people to know. Why don't they want people to know? Because they're worried what's going to happen some other way. She'll either be courted by someone else or I don't know what. So he divorced her in a secret way. That's what the Gemara means. And Baba Metzia, Daf Nun Tet, when it says, remember that David says to the person who embarrasses him publicly, he says, well, better Safek Eshet Ish rather than embarrassing someone in public. What's the Safek Eshet Ish? Safek because really they were completely divorced altogether.
Yeah, but you
Now,
can't do
how
that.
forced? One second.
Shnei
Don't. I know, but
You
wait.
gotta have Shnei Eidim. You can't have a secret divorce.
A secret divorce, and never mind Shnei Edom, you have to have a court. And so it was a secret court, it was a secret Edom. I mean, what's Rabbeinu Tam? My point is, how did Rabbeinu Tam get to this? It was not Parshanut on the Mikra. Rabbeinu Tam is already doing Parshanut on the Gemara, in the Gemara where David says to the people who embarrass him, better to be in a state where an individual was engaged in Safek Eshet Ish, rather than embarrassing someone in public. Why did the Gemara use the lashon of Safek? The Safek is really, that's Rabbeinu Tam's point, they weren't really even married at all anymore. When he went out to battle, they were simply already divorced completely. If you look at the next, that's why I put this, page 2, let me finish one more sentence. Page 2 of part 2 has this Gemara here that we learned last time from Baba Metzia. And if you look on line 3 of the Gemara, line 4 of the Gemara, there's an underlined section here in this Gemara where it says Daf Nun Tet Amud Aleph, and it says right there, Noach lo adam sheyavo al safek eshet ish val yalbin pnei chavero berabim minalan mi the Darash Rava. The Darash Rava about David, the whole story with David. So Rabbeinu Tam is not finding a source for what he wants to argue and speculate might have actually happened in the text of the Tanakh. He's already formulating what's in the text of the Gemara about what happened in the Tanakh. So if we said Rosh Shmuel Bar Nachmani was like this, so Rabbeinu Tam is going around a second time in the tortuousness of it. But why? Because everyone's struggling with the same thing. If I was talking to Rabbeinu Tam, first of all, I wouldn't be talking to Rabbeinu Tam because he died already many years ago in the 12th century. But number 2, because I would have nothing to say to Rabbeinu Tam except to just sit in awe, probably frozen like a deer in the headlights. But if I could muster the gumption, I would say, Rabbeinu. It actually refers to her as Eshet Uriah. How many times in this parak? The 2 prakim? Before he took her, after he died. It keeps telling you again and again and again and again. So the Gemara says, yeah, but technically the way that Natan came after David, he did not say to him, you were over on Eshet Ish. That would be a sin that has an actual, a protocol for what to do with it. And that's not what happens. It's mysterious. So enter the Gemara, because technically he wasn't actually over on Eshet Ish. Now, Rabbeinu Tam was only backed into that corner because of the question that came up here in Tosfot previously, which is that at least according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no such thing as Breira. That means that there's no such thing that if he died at the end, it's like they were divorced at the beginning. By the way, Rabbi Meir, who's not part of this discussion, but Rabbi Meir would say there is such a thing as Breira, although there's a debate if Rabbi Meir holds there's such a thing as Breira in all circumstances. Some, but let's say you could Breira meaning the ex post facto retroactive clarification of what was transpiring in an earlier phase of something. You could say that technically that's how he got off his case. He got off, but not scot-free. He got off on the technicalities of it, but he certainly was not exonerated. Okay, people were waiting for before. Yeah, Larry first, sorry.
So I understand, but Rabbi Yehuda is saying there's no such thing as retroactive.
In anything.
In anything,
Mm-hmm.
period.
Right.
Okay. The other thing, to pile on the trying to favor light for David, one could argue saying Eshet Uriah was not an identification of status, but rather an identification of the person. A woman who's been married for years.
Nachon. And what's your proof? What's your proof for that? You have a good proof for it. After Naval dies, David marries Abigail and refers to as Eshet Naval. That could be Eshet Naval. She's married to someone else. So it's a descriptor. She was known as that person who had been married to, but it doesn't necessarily mean halachic status. She has excellent point. And there's actually proof for it in the Tanakh as well. Let's turn our attention to Bat Sheva for a few minutes. Very challenging.
The only thing that come back
Yeah.
is the fact, okay, is once you identify her as Eshet, were you?
Repeatedly.
Right.
Even after he died, she mourned him, so.
It's very, but it's Batsheva Eshet. How many other Batshevas are on the scene?
That we have to know that, yeah, I don't know.
So it,
Okay, but you're looking for a zchut. You're probably descendant of David HaMelech, so I also find a zchut. What? If you're a Jew, then you're a Yehudi. You're either from Shevet Yehuda, probably, or Shevet Binyamin, or you're a Levi, or a Kohen. So that's pretty much, that's what we got, so.
Does it say Abigail, Eshet, Navat, like it?
Naval.
Naval, like it says.
Yeah,
Bathsheba?
after that story of Naval, where he is treated very, very roughly by yeah.
Page 359, I think.
Thank you.
Which page?
Much earlier on, so that's not good. 359, yeah. So when it mentions, she comes to Naval and tells him this is not going to go well, etc. And the story of Shaul. You're catching me to try to find this pasuk, but I remember we made a big tzimus about it because we were trying to figure out how it could be that there were children. It's not immediately here. It's like a little bit further along when it mentions the children of David. There's a list of them, and look at page 368. It's in Shmuel Bet, Perek Gimel, Pasuk Bet, and Gimel. Page 368. Vayivaldu David bani bechevron, vahi v'choro Amnon la'achino mahi Yisraelit, u'mishneu chil av la'avigail eshet Naval haKarmeli. Yeah. So, how could that be? It's just, Naval's dead, so rude, that's why. Let's turn our attention to Batsheva now a little more. Look at now we're back to part 3. We won't be flipping pages anymore. Sorry I made such a challenge from the sources today.
I got one other interruption.
By all means,
Why
not an
does Avimelech get sick as a dog with Avraham when he realized
Right,
in the middle
right.
of the night?
Yeah,
that he's
right.
not there?
Yeah, and why
So why
not?
doesn't David get sick as a dog when something is wrong? If
I don't know. It just didn't happen that way. Why not? I don't know. Maybe there were the Kosh Baruch had his reasons why. In the case of Sar Yimenu, that would have been the end of the world for obvious reasons. A terrible situation. But in the case of David, for some reason Hashem did not do that. That's true. I don't know. Yeah, David's not the same Madrega's Avram. I don't know what the.
David is
I
so
don't
much
know.
highly morally sensitive than Avimelech.
Than Avimelech for sure, which is maybe why Avimelech wasn't going to get it on his own, had to be told by Hashem, but David was supposed to know that already as a law-abiding, Torah-abiding Jew. Should have known already. He didn't know, seemingly. Yeah. I mean, he did know. That was the problem.
In the Torah, with the captured woman, it goes into great depth
Yeah.
about how you could marry this woman. Now, since this war is always going on,
Yeah.
how come there's nowhere actually in the Torah that says about the divorce or a conditional divorce so that a woman doesn't become a guna, which is a horrible, horrible thing. So they're trying to prevent a horrible, horrible problem. I just don't understand why it wouldn't actually be written out somewhere. Or is that the oral law and I'm forgetting about the oral law?
Well, that's one issue, is that it has the Torah Sheba'al Peh versus Torah Shebechtav, which is a whole other discussion. Well, why isn't it in there more explicitly? Number 2, we were discussing this last night. Also, the same Gemara here. So it happens sometimes the orbits, like they dovetail, until they go together. Pardon? Yeah, I timed it. I mean, it's mine. But the idea that if the guy disappears and he's dead and there's no witnesses, then she's also an aguna. So they need someone to say that he's actually dead. right? So the function of this divorce seems like it has more to do with she wouldn't have to go to Yibum because they would have really been divorced before he died. Therefore, if they didn't have any children, she wouldn't have to have Yibum with his brother or Chalitza even because they're divorced. Yeah, because really, let's say the guy is in the Navy and he goes out on a ship and the ship disappears, never comes back. We have no idea what happened. She's an Aguna. She comes, but I was divorced from the time he dies. I'm divorced, but they said, but you don't know if he's dead. If he's dead, might be alive.
Okay, I didn't realize.
Yeah. Look with me here at the bottom of page 1. This is a whole sugya in Ketubot. We don't have time to see the whole thing inside, but I'm just going to mention this little slice of it because we have to spend a couple minutes. Literally, we'll have to fill it out another time about Batsheva's role in all of this. Right? That thing that happened, the Maaseh Shahaya, whatever they refer to the Maaseh Shahaya, only Chazal meant one thing, the story with David and Bathsheba. So how come she wasn't forbidden afterwards to him? We have a halacha that if, God forbid, there's an Eish situation, Asura Laboel, Asura Labaila, Asura Labo. She's forbidden to the person she had the affair with, and she's forbidden to her husband, both. So how come she wasn't forbidden? Hatam Ones Hava. There was compulsion.
Yeah, he forced her.
He forced her. If you want, you could say, Ki hada amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani amar Rabbi Yonatan, Kol yotzim lechem beit David, gret kritud kotev liishto, ve'et achicha tivkod bel shalom, ve'et arubatam tikach, ve'et arubatam tikach, Tani Rav Yosef, dvarim shemu ravin beino leveina. The end of this Gemara is exactly the quote that we already learned from Masechet Shabbat. It's cited in 2 different places. But that first piece of her being forced or compelled,
That takes care of her, doesn't take care of David.
well, hold on, but we're talking about her. I'm focusing on her.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what does it mean she was forced? I mean, it actually describes that she went. Pardon?
It's only half the equation.
I won't deal with half the equation at this moment. We're talking about David for weeks. We're talking about Bathsheba. I'm just saying, what's from Bathsheba's perspective? How is it that afterward Bathsheba stays with David? By the by, they have this son named Shlomo, who's actually in the end the successor and the rest of the Davidic line. But isn't she forbidden? No, because at the beginning she was taken as someone who was taken by the king. And if you look at the way it describes, page 376, Vayishlach David Malachim Vayikacheha Vatavo Ela Vayishkav Ima V'him Mitkadeshet Mitumata Vatashav El Beita. So there seems to be an element of even if whatever it is that transpired, we'll see soon with, God forbid, Lo Aleinu, with the terrible story with Amnon and Tamar, that's going to be actual rape. This sounds like it has to do with the king says, you better show up. You can't say no. He's a person in a position of authority. It's an abuse of his power.
Would she be a Mored Hamalchut if she had tried to hide herself or something like that?
Yes, unless she could say to the king, I have one thing that I could say against you, sire, which is it's forbidden for me to be with you. Why didn't she say it's forbidden for me to be with you? Because that a conditional get. So really she wasn't married. She couldn't use that card. And therefore she had to go. This is a playing out on a certain level. And I know it'll sound harsh, but and I by no means mean that this is actually correct or this was the license. But what was really intended in the license. But that's what Shmuel is telling the people. The king will be able to come and take your children from you. Now, it really means to press them into service. It doesn't mean like this. But think about what it means that he's the king. He can put anyone he wants to death who he perceives as being a rebel. He has this eminent domain piece that he can take over whatever he wants if he thinks it's in the interest of the court. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. He's pretty close. He actually already has the legacy signed away as a blank check. And then we saw those two prakim, chapter 9 and chapter 10, which were each in their own way, different ways, where we see David as a person who reaches beyond boundaries. We talked about this at the end last time. He's a Baal Chesed. So he does Chesed with Mephibosheth. He does Chesed, tries to do Chesed with the Ammon. It doesn't work. It blows back in his face, and that's where they have the war. And then Chesed, its dark underbelly, is Ta'ava, is that desires are just fulfilled because I can, because I should, because what are boundaries really if not some kind of arbitrary constructs. I mean, that's the click, 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 click of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination that's seizing hold. So he did the wrong thing, but the Gemara wants you to know. You think it was two people, lahavdol, strangers in the night. These two people, they met in a party or something. There was no parity between them. It's the king of the whole nation. And some woman, he sent for her. So she didn't have much of a choice. She just had to show up. She's a subject.
How do you relate that to Esther later on?
I can relate it that Esther was even less in the story than Bathsheba. Much less. That Esther Amalka actually uses the verbiage, again, she was taken. It doesn't even say that she came of her own volition in any way, shape, or form. I reject with two hands, b'shtei yadayim, any claims that there was some kind of beauty pageant. My nursery school teacher in Montreal, notwithstanding, there was no beauty pageant, there was no song, there was no Esther, will you marry me song, there was no people traipsing out with their beauty to see who will be chosen. It was a relative who raised her, who tried to hide her away, and it didn't work, and she got taken. It says so in the Megillah. And I get very worked up about this, because there are people who, again, to file in the same school with the people who will get rid of, let's just knock out David HaMelech, they'll do the same thing with Esther Amalka, and it's dead wrong. It's dead wrong in the level of pshat to begin with, let alone everything else.
She's bad stuff happens to her after she
Yeah.
consents to go.
So
over
tragic.
Yeah, that's
terrible. Yeah, it's terrible stuff. I'm gonna tell you.
She
Yeah.
could have used Yosef's magic word, Vatima'ain, she could have said.
Who?
Bathsheba could have said Vatima'ain
She could have done. She could
with
have.
the shalshelet.
She could have. Yeah. By the way, it's not a footnote to the story. They just on a human level, this little child is going to die.
Yeah.
And that is spoken to David from the Navi. Natan does tell him that this child is going to die, and we didn't read that inside yet. That's when we come back after the break. So we're going to look that inside. That's the two of them are punished with that in terms of that. If you turn the page to page 2 to the back, with 3 minutes left over here. It's Masechet Avodah Zarah. It's one Gemara, but I forgot to change the font, the second half of it. Okay, and again, you can take this as you will. I think you could use this as some kind of license for bad things. I don't think that's what Chazal intended, but. The Jewish people made the golden calf in order to give an opening for the mouths of those who want to do tshuva. David was not worthy, really. It wasn't appropriate to that what he did. It was not really on his on his level. It's totally out of character, and it really doesn't befit him what happened, and the Jewish people didn't befit them what they did. Lo David ra'ui lo otomase v'libi chalal b'kirbi. He'd say at one point, my heart is actually vacuous. It is emptied out. I see Sino said slain, but halal I didn't understand really to be slain as much as like something that is a halal is a void. There's a void in some. Their heart should be like this, to fear me all the days. Okay, what's going on? Look by the by, Cheta Egel, which is described by the Nevi'im as an act of znut, an act of sexual immorality. I want to see another example. In the Navi, there's different descriptions. It's described that way as the faithlessness of the Jewish people with regard to Cheta Egel. Look at, the beautiful drushas, the 2 luchot, 5 aside. 1 is believe in God. 2 is don't have idols. On the second tablet, 1 is don't commit murder, because you're destroying the Tselem Elokim of another human being. Number 2, don't commit adultery. They're lined up with each other. So the idea that the two of them are lined up has perhaps some resonance here as well. And it's not saying it explicitly. The point is, what's otomase? They don't want to call it a sin. When you say with the golden calf, would you say it was a chait? I would say it was a chait. It's pretty obvious. It's a chait. Anachata amazeh, chata agedola. This is the Torah itself describes. But with regard to David, it's more circumspect, it's more convoluted, it's more murky. But what are they basically saying? They did the wrong thing. And they're drawing a parallel between the two. But they really shouldn't have done it. But why did they do it? Right? Lomar lecha, or why did it have to happen? Why did they do it? So Cincino added in the words, God predestined it so. I don't know that that's necessarily, I mean, everything's predestined on one level, but come on, what about their moral culpability? They did the wrong thing, they had to pay for it. That is what happened. If an individual sins, Omri lo say to him, Kilcha etzel yachid. V'im chatut tzibur omrim, right? Lechu etzel tzibur, right? If it's a case of go be with that individual. You're a sinner, you can't repent. Look at David HaMelech. Greatest Baal Tshuva. The community sins. Look what happened to the Jewish people. Cheta Egel. Utzricha diyash minan yachid mishum dol mefarsim chata'ei. Avot tzibud mefarsim chata'ayu emalo. You could think, if it had only one and not the other, you would say that if it's only the individual, and it was the David example, you'd say, well, it's not publicized in the same way. But the tzibur, since it's publicized, they can't make amends. No, so therefore you can make amends. That's their example. You could say that, well, the tzibur, God's going to have mercy upon the right? So you could say that really the yachid, if you can't actually claim that there's some kind of merit that they have, you could say there's no way for them really to fix it. So no, tzricha, you have to have the individual's examples. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman, Rabbi Yonatan, my dichtiv, ne'um David ben Yishai, ne'um hagever hukam al, right? Why do you use that expression, the one who is raised up? Ne'um David ben Yishai shehikim olah shel tshuva. David was the one who raised up the yoke of tshuva, right? And in fact, as we kept seeing again and again, there is something to be said for it. And more than that, we saw Rabbi Nachman Breslover last time, that Sefer Tehillim is that, etc. Let's read this together, which we read, actually, I found it in my files from 11 years ago, Mamash 11 years ago, Rabbi Shalom Karmi in Hamavaser, volume 38, number 1. Rabbi Karmi writes the following, and we've basically been saying this in a certain way, yeah? The Gemara suggests that David didn't commit adultery because Uriah had given Bathsheba a conditional get, and that Uriah's inferred disloyalty made his life forfeit and therefore exculpated David, from the guilt of his death. Abravanel questions this, and the text of Tanakh seems to support him. After all, David was punished for taking Bathsheba and for killing Uriah. According to the Abravanel then, and according to the simple phrasing of Tanakh, David was an adulterer. According to Chazal, he was not. Which view is historically correct? If the Gemara is conveying the authentic tradition of Torah Sheba'al Peh, then it is literally true, and you have to explain why the pasuk gives a different impression. If Abravanel is right, then the Gemara regarding David as a righteous person is offering the most respectful, least damaging version of the story. It is not my primary interest to decide between these options. My business is to explore the implications of the sources. Why indeed does the Navi imply that David was an adulterer and a murderer? Why is he so severely punished for his behavior if, as Chazal teach, he was halachically impregnable? The answer is very simple. Legal invulnerability does not exclude moral guilt. In the face of God's condemnation, David's ability to justify himself on narrow halachic grounds counts for very little. We, who have so much experience with legalistic politicians and other amoral personages, should understand why Chazal's defense of David does not override Pshuto Shel Mikra. And I suspect that chuckle was because of the applicability of this to our contemporary moment, the Ein Kan Makom Laharich. We're going to close now our discussion. There is actually much more halachic writing and pieces back and forth, but for now, I have one more thing that I want to go back to again when we get back together. If I get to it immediately, I don't know, but it's the Meshech Chochmah's take on David and the tshuva process and tshuva generally and what happened and the like. We'll come to that maybe in a few weeks. The next 2 weeks we will not have class, but God will resume in 3 weeks' time on Thursday, January, whatever that week is. January the, hold on, I'll tell you immediately. January the 16th we'll resume. God willing. So I look forward to seeing everyone then. I wish everyone a continued Freilich and Chanukah. And that's it.